How do people afford to live on Mackinac Island? Hello, if you're new here, I'm a year-round resident living on Mackinac Island. And if you've never been here, it's this really beautiful historical island. We're literally a cruise stop destination, like cruise ships. I can't remember how many came last year. There was a lot of cruise ships that I want to say was like 118. I may have just completely made up that number, but like we are a cruise ship destination, and tens of thousands of people come to the island every week to visit during the tourist season. I think it ends up being like over a million tourists a year come and visit our small little island located between the peninsulas of Michigan. So how in the world do people afford to live here? That was a comment on a video when I was showing you the current housing market and houses that are for sale. It's very rare to find houses below $2 million, even more rare to find houses below $1 million, though they do exist. So like, how in the world do people afford to live here year round? I can't speak for everybody, and I've shared this before, but I can share a little bit about my insight as a year-round resident, and maybe that answers the question. I would like to start and debunk the theory that the year-round residents here are all millionaires and billionaires. Most people are middle class, believe it or not. And most people do not live in those $1 million homes, though there definitely are people that do, for sure, because they're there and people own them. There are a lot of people that have had their whole lives and generations of lives of family on this island. So the houses that they live in are either passed down to them from family, sold from family member to family member, in a much more affordable way. Something that a lot of people don't know is that there are tons of neighborhoods around the island scattered in between the state park land. So what you see downtown is the historic district. Really, the whole island is a historic district, but you see the main street, you see the shops, you see both of the bluffs, the West Bluff, the East Bluff, that have these magnificent Victorian homes. And there are also beautiful homes all around the island, but there are also normal neighborhoods as well scattered throughout the island. No, I will not show you guys any of those neighborhoods because families live there, my friends live there, and I just think that they needs to stay private. So if you're a teacher on the island working at the school, how do you afford to live here? If you're, if you work for the dump, or if you work for the water and sewer company, it's not a company, infrastructure, whatever. If you work for the city, that's what it is. If you're a police officer, if you work at the grocery store, if like my partner works at the school, I have a virtual job. Like, how do people afford to live here? And I think it's important to realize that, yes, certain expenses might seem higher, but then certain expenses are also lower. I think for me, the biggest change of expense was the reduction in gasoline. Yes, I own a car. No, it is not on the island because you can't have them on the island. My car is stored in St. Ignace, and I drive it maybe once a week. And so like I rarely spend money on gas. When we lived in mid-Michigan, we were spending a couple $100s a week on gas because we had two vehicles. One was a V8, and like one takes premium. Like it was a lot in gas, and we lived further from where we worked, and we were commuting 45 minutes one way to work. So like we were consuming a lot of gasoline, where like I think I fill up my gas tank maybe once a month. So like, that's a huge reduction. My car insurance is cheaper because we went from a highly populated city with a lot of crime to St. Ignace. So that is a huge reduction. I think the living expenses that may seem higher is groceries. I do a lot of my groceries via online. Like Amazon type of stuff that can be delivered to my door. But I do the bulk of my grocery shopping at the grocery store here on the island, which is Dowd's Market. It is the oldest grocery store in America. And yeah, the prices are going to be higher a little bit than what they would be on the mainland. Not everything is like such a crazy price. But like it's got to get to the island. So yeah, there's going to be more expenses in transporting things here and just life on an island. So I do most of my grocery shopping there. We are a family of four. I have a very active husband. He is 6'6", and so he consumes a good amount of food. I have two teenagers who consume a lot of food. We spend around $300 a week on groceries. That's maybe I spend more than that. I was going to say that's between the grocery store and online shopping, but I actually should calculate that. I think I probably spend more. Let's say 300. We're around the 300 a week mark for groceries. So like that's probably high for a lot of people. Mortgage, rent, whether you're renting or you own, that's just going to be dependent on type of house you bought. Residential rentals can range, I don't even know, maybe $1,200 to $3,000 a month, depending on location, what you're renting, where you're renting. And the residential rentals are really difficult to get because one, there's a waiting list. Two, you have to have year-round employment on the island in order to qualify to live in those rentals because they're for residents. They're not for people who just want to spend a couple months on the island. So that is limiting, but not impossible. And I'm trying to think what else you guys tell me, what other expenses am I not thinking about? Like health insurance, that's not contingent on living on the island or not. My student loans sure aren't contingent on whether or not I live on the island. My student loans are ridiculous. So like our family's monthly budget, I have it calculated. Let me check. So minus savings and investments, our family's living expenses, which includes my crazy student loans. I have a whole playlist on student loans. Our family's budget is just over $6,000 a month. And that includes pretty much everything except for the things I just said it doesn't. And that we have a storage unit in St. Ignace that has a lot of our stuff. We sold a house a couple years ago. We had 20 acres in mid-Michigan, sold a house. And then when we moved to the island, when you purchase a house, when you rent a house, most of the time it comes furnished. So our place was furnished for the most part. And we've brought in some of our furnishings. So we do have a lot of our stuff in storage that we're like, not sure what to do with. So it includes that. It includes like allowance that I give to my kids for doing certain things around the house. Internet. We use Starlink. There is broadband internet on the island. We just use Starlink. That's just what we chose. That includes my hair and my nail appointments. Groceries, life insurance, like the things that we spend, Christmas budget, all that stuff is in there. So, maybe that's a lot for some people. Like that's well below my income. And so like we're able to actually save a lot of money and aggressively pay down my student loans by living here. And then my partner also works. So, we feel like we're in a pretty good spot, and I'm thankful and I'm grateful. And I know not everybody is in that position to be able to say things like that. I know for years we definitely weren't, and it feels good to feel stable and, in a beautiful place. So it's doable. If you want to move to Mackinac Island and that is like a dream of yours, it can be a reality. It is possible. It's not an impossible thing, but it takes some strategic moves. It takes patience. It takes a lot of changed plans. It usually doesn't go super smooth, but it definitely is doable.